All right, so hello everybody. Welcome to the Engineering Gals featuring Graduate School YouTube live seminar. Engineering Gals was founded in 2016 by our amazing co-founders Maritza and Amy, and we're an online community for engineers, specifically women engineers. And our mission is to share information and resources to inspire the next generation of engineers. And that actually includes me because I'm an undergraduate student studying at Arizona State University, studying electrical engineering. So some of these people I've worked with or I know very dearly, so I'm really excited that they've agreed to do this today. So just a reminder, this event is not sponsored or endorsed by any government, corporation, or entity. It is an independent event hosted by engineering gals of these amazing women speaking of their own experiences. Government, corporation, or entity. It is an independent event hosted by. It is echoing in the background. Women speaking of their own experiences. Government, corporation, or entity. It is an independent event hosted by. It is echoing in the background. Women speaking of their own experiences. Government, corporation, or entity. It is an independent event hosted by. It is. Okay, awesome. It wouldn't be a good stream without any technical difficulties. Yeah, so first I want everyone to start introducing themselves. So we'll start with Dr. Lyndsey McMillion-Brown, and we'll just go around.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you to Engineering Gals for this wonderful platform. I know I speak for all the panelists when I say we're so excited to be here today. So I am Dr. Lyndsey McMillion-Brown. I am currently a research electrical engineer at NASA's Glenn Research Center, and my research focuses on solar cells. For education, I got a bachelor's degree in mechanical and manufacturing engineering at Miami University, and then I pursued a PhD in chemical engineering at Yale.
All right, so if Rikhi, you want to kick it off from there?
Absolutely. So hi everyone, I'm Rikhi and I'm a first-year master's student at the Aerospace Systems Design Lab at Georgia Tech, which is where I'm pursuing a master's in aerospace engineering. And Georgia Tech was also my undergrad institution, and I'm currently a graduate researcher for the Federal Aviation Administration working on machine learning applications for runway safety. I'm a 2019 fellow of the Brooke Owens Fellowship and the founder of the She Leads Conference, which is Singapore's first women leaders in aerospace conference, as well as UDAN, which is a new platform for international students in aerospace to connect and receive mentorship for professional development opportunities. And you can find me at Rikhi Roy everywhere online.
Awesome. Chong Wei, if you'd like to go next.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Chong Wei. I'm a PhD student in chemistry at the University of North Carolina. And I am a first-generation immigrant, so I obtained my master and bachelor degree in Taiwan, also in chemistry. And now I focus on nanospectroscopy. So it is a method to combine spectroscopy and scanning probe microscope to study a very tiny length scale and study how it affects a larger functional. And the techniques in my research can find application in solar cell and photovoltaics, this technology stuff. And before my PhD life, I was also working in industry for an electronic technology company for like 3 years until I moved here in America in 2015. So outside of lab, I also pursuing science and communication with a particular focus on writing. So write about science on my free time. And also I'm on Instagram to try to support women in PhD as well. And besides this, when I'm not at my desk, I will be found in hanging out with my kids, my 2 toddlers, and my husband, also a chemist.
So quick disclaimer for those of you that know me, they know I'm a solar nerd, and I did not mean for there to be so many solar nerds on this panel, but I'm glad it happened that way personally. But moving forward, if we want to end with our last but certainly not least, Dr. Seetha Raghavan. Forward, if we want to end with our
I don't know
last
if
but
you guys
certainly
can
not
hear
least,
me
Dr.
clearly.
Seetha
Can you?
Raghavan. Forward, if we want to end with our
I don't know
last
if
but
you guys
certainly
can
not
hear
least,
me
Dr.
clearly.
Seetha
Can you?
Raghavan. You might want to close the YouTube panel. Is there like another YouTube page on your screen? Some fun technical difficulties we're working with. Okay, so Seetha will be right back. We'll have her join us in a second. But yes, we still have Gina to do introductions for.
Yes, I can go next while we wait for her. Hey everyone, my name is Gina Moreno. I'm a first generation American and first generation college graduate. I started doing research as an undergraduate. My initial idea was to get an MBA, but I met an amazing mentor that was obsessed with systems engineering. And so I jumped from doing my bachelor's in industrial engineering to doing my master's in systems engineering right after my undergrad. I did my own 5-year program because it didn't exist. And I got experience in aerospace. So I did several experiences through internships and co-ops with Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and then I moved into automotive with Toyota and Cummins, and then I decided I wanted to go into tech. So I really leveraged my master's in systems engineering to get into tech, and now I'm a program manager. And so I work in the software space, which is a lot of fun, and I can go into more detail about that. But in my own time, I usually love to travel. So COVID has been hard. I'm just so excited for life after COVID. And I do content for my own blog and TikTok. So I'm very excited to be here and meet everyone.
Awesome. Dr. Seetha, if you'd like to try again, hopefully it works out.
All right, so I think this is good right now. My name is Sitara Raghavan. I'm a professor at the University of Central Florida, and I've been there for about 12 years now. And I had like about 8 years of work experience before I became a professor. So I'm an aerospace engineer by training, and mostly working with structures and materials. I loved working with industry, but I love working in the university a lot more, and especially love working with students and doing research and getting to meet a lot of different people and collaborate with a lot of researchers as well. So in my free time, I like to learn new things. So I'm learning how to fly, and I learn different languages, those kind of things, and that helps me to kind of balance my time.
Yeah, so what an amazing group of panelists. I could literally not ask for a more diverse panel and all of your experiences, but also amazing people. I love that you guys hit on some like things that you do outside, because a lot of things that I like to talk about in my social media is being multifaceted, right? Some people think like a lot of us STEM people are just like robots. Like all we're doing is sit, code all day. We go to bed, we reset, repeat. But it's kind of weird because we all have interests like normal people. So it's really awesome how you guys brought that up, and we will discuss some of those interests more in depth later. So I want to kick it off with a question for everyone. You guys hit on it a little, but I really want to dig deeper into academia, how you got there, why you wanted to go into there. So what made you decide to go to grad school? How did you choose what subject to specialize in? Were you already passionate? Did you learn, was it a learn to love kind of thing? So if we want to start off with Dr. Lyndsey and then just go around, let's do it.
Thanks, Nikki. Yeah, so deciding to go to grad school is a big decision and a big choice. And for me, I was led that way. I started undergrad thinking that I wanted to be a medical doctor, which I feel like most people are pushed that direction if you like math and science. Of course, you're going to be an MD. So I started grad school really with a medical interest, but I took engineering as my major and just kind of added the pre-med sequence to that. But I took on independent research and co-ops and internships throughout my undergraduate experience. And that independent research kind of opened my eyes to research. And then I was a intern and then a co-op. And for those that don't know, a co-op is doing work in school rotations with a company or entity. For me, it was with the government, with the agreement that after you graduate, you already have a job secured. So it's a bit more commitment than an internship. And through those hands-on research experiences, I was able to see the biomedical industry, see, aerospace, see solar cells and energy. And then I really loved solar cells. So that already informed me. So when I started looking for graduate programs, I was looking for where was solar cell research happening. And I shopped around at different institutions that were known to be strong for solar. I had a unique situation because I was a NASA co-op, so I wanted to find a grad school that would be amenable to me doing work school rotations. So some professors that I contacted and said, I'd love to be in your lab. Would you be okay with me leaving for a couple months of the year? They weren't okay with that. That school would not have been a good fit for me. So that also informed some of my choices. But also, I think it's really important when you're choosing where you want to go to also remember that you're going to live there. This is a home. So you also need to consider 5, 6, 7 years of your life, what you might want that to look like.
Yeah, and whoever wants to go next, just chime right in.
I can go. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Well, I would say my curiosity toward science started very early on in my junior high when I was really obsessed with watching the National Geography Discovery Channel, watching all the whale documentary. So this is very fascinating. I just feel like, wow, that's so cool to really go outside there and see other different area and perspective from in the world. But then I get into chemistry in my undergrad kind of by accident, because in Taiwan, we kind of have to take the examination and then fill in your priority based on how much scores you have already. So I got in chemistry kind of by accident, but when I get into that program, I found that it's still very fun area. I met so many interesting people. And then in my senior year, I got into a lab to do this independent research. And I just feel like this is so cool. A place feels so many spectrometer and this very huge area and just people doing on that. And they look so calm and very confident. So I kind of want to, maybe one day I can do that. So, and then I get into the master degree. By then, I don't have a thought to give into a more advanced degree like I do now in a PhD degree. Until in the second year, when I found one of my lab mates, she was studying this GRE and things like TOEFL, this examination. I feel like, oh, this is something new and very exciting. So that's when I have the thought to go abroad and studying overseas and doing an advanced degree. At the time, I didn't really have a lot of resource and how to do that. So I kind of end up in the industry world and doing another engineer in the industry. So at 3 years and 4 years passed, it's kind of when I was 28, 9 years old, and then me and my husband starting to think about kind of what's the next life stage we want it to be. We want to still continue in the industry, which is still a very good option. We have a good salary and good level of quality, but we just feel we are very curious about changes. So that's when the thought, and then I pick up my dream to study abroad and then get involved in this exam. And then very fortunately, I got enrolled and get offer the next year. And that's when I moved here to do an advanced degree. And doing the chemistry is still relevant to my undergrad and also master degree. And then when they comes to the offer and they find this laboratory, I think it's just talk to the people and talk to the advisor, how I see myself. Do I see myself succeed in this area in this university and whether this lab environment would fit my lifestyle and how I could really communicate and then feel related to my advisor. So that's how I decide how to do this graduate program.
Amazing. Yeah, if we want to move on to Dr. Sitara Raghavan.
Okay, great. I always wanted to do my advanced degree, my PhD, even as an undergraduate. And I really was interested in engineering from the start. My dad was an engineer, so that's why I got that. But I found out only that I was really interested in aerospace engineering during my undergraduate years. And I kind of, felt it started to develop along the way. I used to watch the airplanes fly near my home, and I started to really want to know more about it. And in my undergraduate years, when I took all my classes in that area, I really decided that's where I wanted to go. I had a little bit of a non-traditional path. I didn't go on to grad school right after undergrad. I had to go to work for a while. I was lucky to get an internship, so I went to work in my internship company after I graduated, which was great. You try to use those opportunities to make it a work opportunity as well. And so I was lucky to get a position. I worked there for about a year before I decided to do my master's. So I took a year off of work, went to do my master's in France. And that was a really great experience. It was challenging, but it was a great experience. I came back and continued to work for a couple of years and then decided to apply to grad school. And I did that at Purdue. How did I, choose that subject? The subject was, part of what I was doing at work. I was working a lot in aerospace structures and mechanics. So I figured that was what my experience was in, and I really liked what I was doing. So I chose that to be my graduate study as well. When I went off to do my graduate school, I also already had 2 kids. So I brought 2 kids with me, and we kind of did that together. So that was pretty exciting. It was challenging, but it was, it was a real experience. I think it was experience in perseverance.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to talk more into having kids and doing grad school and that thing, because as a woman, that's something you always wonder. A lot of people say, like, if you don't want to go straight into grad school and you do it later and you take the break to maybe save money or life experience, what does that look like? And it's really hard to envision, especially for me going from an undergraduate, this is my life. Like, that's all I have going on. So we'll definitely delve into that. Rikhi, if you want to continue this conversation.
Absolutely. But first, I think, Gina, you had unmuted. I think you had...
Yeah, I was going to go. You can go, whichever one.
No, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So I was like, I jot down notes or else like I'll forget. And like, usually I like to speak because then I'll forget everything I was going to say. But yeah, so I take a lot of pride in being intentional with my goals. Like that's something that I take a lot of pride on. But life sometimes happens, and I think a lot of the common theme is just like, people driven. I'm a big people person, and I think a lot of the relationships that I formed led me to do my master's. So I mentioned that I initially wanted to do my MBA because I chose industrial engineering because it was heavy in numbers. And I was like, I want a balance, right? Like I want to be a leader. I want to know about the business. So that's what I thought, right? And so I did research. I got the opportunity in my department, which was industrial manufacturing and systems engineering. I got that opportunity and I did supply chain systems analysis for Lockheed Martin. And so we basically evaluated information technology systems. And so it's looking at their capabilities and evaluating what system is best for the needs of the company. So very different type of research, not very sciencey, more numbers based and like analysis based. And so I fell in love with the discipline. And so my the person who was leading us, his name is Dr. Mondragon. He was like so sweet. Like I just like he had like 2 daughters, and he would always talk about them. And then he would always joke around, and he would say, you know, you're not gonna do your MBA, right? You know, you're gonna end up doing a master's in systems engineering. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like I always played it off. And so turns out that after being a year in the project, I was like, systems engineering is so cool because it puts everything together. It's basically like very similar to software. I'm extremely interested in that aspect of it in the tech space, but it also gives you an opportunity to have a broader space. And I think systems engineering is very applicable to aerospace, but I would argue that it's applicable in any complex system. You always need a systems engineer, right? So I really fell in love with the discipline after that project. And I don't know, in terms of like a master's degree, I know it was something that I really wanted to do regardless. And so I was like, I have the opportunity now. I have, and I think we're going to jump into this, but I have the funding. I'm a research assistant. I'm a teaching assistant. And also my school gave me scholarships because they had seen my involvement. And so it's through my undergrad that I formed these relationships with my department, and it all came together, and I was like, I'm going to stay, you know, like, and so I really liked my experience. And again, I think we all have very different experiences, and I love that.
Yeah, so I think I can piggyback off of that because in graduate school, I'm a aerospace systems engineer, and I can echo everything that Gina shared, where I absolutely love systems engineering. In my undergrad institution, which is also my graduate institution, I think there was an emphasis on the technical skills rather than the soft skills. And then you stand in a line in career fair, and then all they're talking to you about is the soft skills. And so I was able to excel at the soft skills, and I always thought that I was doing something wrong because in undergrad, I felt like I had to fit into a specific mold. And I was also extremely passionate about aerospace safety and ethics. And in my 132 credits that they made me take, they don't require you to take safety or ethics. And in fact, for ethics, it sometimes doesn't fit in because of all the other requirements that you must take to graduate, unless you figure out how to pay extra, or like there's some sort of like additional thing that you have to do to learn ethics, which I think still weighs heavy on my heart. And really, I never imagined myself being a graduate researcher because of the identity that I had associated with it, something that I felt really far away from because every metric of success in undergrad that I kind of had to hit academically, I was scraping after being successful in high school, and I just didn't know what I was doing wrong. I just knew that I had to get out. And interestingly or sadly, at my institution, our hashtag for graduating is I got out. And when I did get out, it was in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and I had been recruiting as an international student in aerospace for 9 months at that point. And it was really challenging. And when all my full-time opportunities kind of disappeared into quicksand, graduate school, which I had all but written off with my 2.96 GPA, became a possibility because the institute decided to lower the requirement to attend without a GRE, or sorry, to apply without a GRE to a 3.0. And similar to Gina, because of my involvement in the department and advocacy, the 2.96 was rounded to a 3. So I applied to what I think is like the second graduate institution for aerospace on a Monday, and I got in on a Wednesday. And nothing has ever come so easily, something that I had written off as a sophomore. So really for 2 years had never thought that I could do this. But as a graduate student now, I get to focus more on safety and ethics because I'm able to research on it, as I shared before, and it's led to kind of like my dream job. And I think just my takeaway from this is that when you're in alignment, wild things happen. And when you're out of alignment, you just constantly feel like you're doing the wrong thing. And so it's like, if you're doing the wrong thing, it's like not you necessarily, you're just not in alignment. Like everything was out of whack for me until like that Wednesday when I, got accepted and had full funding to be able to go and pay rent, which is so nice. So yeah, that's really my story. I wanted to go last because it was a little different.
Well, it's beautiful. I was like, I'm gonna cry. Like it's really inspiring, like how much you've overcome, and a lot of people on this panel have overcome. And I've been there. I mean, I failed 2 classes, and then the next semester I worked at NASA. So I was like, this is kind of just like what happens. And that experience consolidated my love for learning. And I met people like Lyndsey who grew me into a better person. And so it's just, life is going to do what it's going to do. And we're going to talk about mental health and being in alignment, as Rikhi said before. But I do want to ask really quick, maybe just for Lyndsey and Gina, Chong Wei, maybe you have something to say about how beneficial do you think your graduate degree or getting your graduate degree, Chong Wei, because you're going back to school, has been in your career, where you wanted to go? So what benefits has it given you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So now I'm still at my finishing line in PhD, so I cannot really say how this PhD degree can help me in my future career. But I do reflect how gaining this PhD 5-6 years from now compared to when I work in the industry when I only hold a master degree. But also there's a difference. There's a backstory because the industry experience is in Taiwan, not in America. I feel the biggest difference I want to highlight here is PhD is doing some kind of at a higher level kind of overview things doing when I work in engineer, of course I have my own project, but mostly I'm trying to push a little bit stuff and trying to do and weaving things together. But in the PhD, while in this training, I have to push things more forward when things feel like it's stuck there. Perhaps there are 2 or 3 and maybe months of not getting any progress at all, and you feel so frustrated and feel like something is wrong in me. The measurement is not really going well. It's probably my fault, and I don't receive any results or feedback from people. That's probably my fault in communication or other stuff. So I feel like PhD is really gaining me this tolerance and capacity to deal with either frustration or failure. And like you said, we panels here must have overcome a lot of things like this, a lot of struggles and challenges, so that we can get the other side and seeing that what has the past has really taught us and experiencing these things like that.
I can comment next. So I'd like to first say that everybody, regardless of your education, your background, how you contribute professionally or personally within this world, is of value, and it matters, and it's impactful, and we should all respect that and cherish those contributions. And I think a lot of times that doesn't always happen in our society. So if you get a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, a GED, your impact on this world is going to be significant and impactful. To that end, I have found extreme value in my PhD. I think it's also important to look and ensure that the value of the degree matches up with your goals, your professional goals, your workplace, and to see what types of tasks that degree has within your industry or your workplace. For me, I'm at NASA. We are a federal research institution. So for me to hold a PhD, I am a subject matter expert. I am a principal investigator. I lead research teams. I am more likely to get a listening ear when I'm putting in for grants to lead those research teams, because I have demonstrated by earning this PhD that I can, you know, develop new technology and lead these teams and do these things. This is not to say that someone who has 10 years of work experience but not the PhD can't necessarily do those things, but the PhD is a certification that you can do it, right? So I would also like to touch on the importance of credentials if you are a diverse or a person with intersecting identities, right? I am a Black female in tech, and I see lots of different intersections of identities on this call with me right now, and I'm sure our listeners may represent the LGBTQ community or many of the other historically marginalized identities. So with that, a lot of times, unfortunately, in our current state of society, you need those credentials to declare your seat at the table and to ensure that you are respected and listened to. And again, I firmly believe that everyone at the table should be respected and listened to regardless. But sometimes you'll be on a call where they think the female on the call is the note taker, the secretary, and especially when you're young, you know, you can't possibly be the scientist, and it's helpful. It's a smaller help, but it is helpful to have credentials for those reasons too.
Yeah, I can go next. That resonated with me so much. You said in the beginning about value. Yeah, so that's a huge thing. I mean, after graduating, I know I've had this discussion with a lot of peers and friends. Like, I think, you know, you work all your life for this big goal, right? Like your bachelor's, your master's, and you place all your value into your productivity, into like your accomplishments. But I just want to resonate, like your value doesn't change regardless of your education level. And so I think the common theme as to all of we're saying is also resiliency. I think a lot of these degrees just show you how to be resilient because it's not easy. And I think I get the question as to like, you know, should I do my master's? What do you think? I think it depends. As you were saying, like it just depends what your career goals are, you know, and I think it's important to evaluate if it's aligned with you. I think my master's has given me an advantage because of the discipline that is. I use, like, I tell this all the time to people who ask me, like, I use my experiences and I juice them. Whatever it is, you align it to what you want, right? And so that's how I set myself apart, not precisely because of the master's degree, but it's like, what did the master's degree have an impact on me and how do I push that impact forward? To me, it's like, I know how to evaluate very complex systems. I know how to manage people and the personas. I know what stakeholders we need. I know a lot of different things about requirements. And so I know that a lot of people who are in tech might know that, but they don't know that from my discipline, right? They know it from software engineering. So it's just like, I think it's these things that not only help you set you apart, but also it's really fun to just have like a mix of disciplines. And that's what makes innovation happen. And that's what makes everything fun. So that's my 2 cents.
And I can add a little bit to that. I think the part on innovation that you mentioned is really important. And I think when I was in industry, I was really excited about my work as an engineer. But after a number of years, I felt like I wanted to be part of the future, and that innovation and research is something that I wanted to get into. And I believe that, you know, to be part of research and innovation, it tends to be that you need a higher level degree like a PhD or a master's, and that's what you need to kind of get. I also felt like I wanted to be, I was ready to kind of come up with my own research ideas, my own innovative ideas. I had a lot of them, but I felt like being in a company somehow limited me to some extent to what they wanted to accomplish. And so, you know, I guess in my mind, there were 2 ways to go about it. I could start my own company, or I could be part of the research enterprise of my own. And being a lead PI is what I decided to go towards. And that was something I could do in a university. And of course, being among students who are always excited about the future is part of that whole process. So for me, the PhD is something, when I thought of doing it, as an undergraduate. Nothing about you know, research, nothing about being an academic was what was in my mind at that time. In my mind, it was just, I love aerospace engineering and I wanted to go all the way. So, you know, it's like level 5 or whatever it is, right? So if there's a PhD, I want to go for it. But eventually I figured out what that PhD meant. And it meant that I could have these opportunities to lead my own research, come up with my own ideas. And of course, you'd have to write your try to get grants for it. But when you do, you're creating something that's conceived by you, and you get to expand it the way you want. And I think that freedom is something that comes with advanced degrees.
And I love all that you said just there. And it kind of leads me into a new topic I wanted to go into. But something I wanted to bring up that's personal to me, not only are you doing this innovative research and teaching these classes, but you're showing young women, you're being such a good example for young women at your university. I have a PI who's a woman, and I swear, like, I would not be where I am today without her. Like, she's the strongest, like, excuse my language, most badass woman I have ever met. Like, and she's taught me always, like, yeah, this is going to happen, and given me that guidance and mentorship that I've really needed to push through, not only in my research life, but in my personal life, in my industry life. So not only are you making like awesome research contributions, like thank you for like all these undergraduates, you're inspiring constantly. But I wanted to go into something that Lyndsey brought up. She was talking about credentials and how her PhD gave her a seat at the table. And I think that's something really important that we should discuss. So have any of you experienced gender bias, race bias within the engineering industry? And did that almost lead into an imposter syndrome or a doubt of yourself? And what do you do to combat that? How do you mentally go through that? Anyone can take it. Anyone. This is kind of off the books a little.
Okay, I can go first, I guess. Okay, it's a difficult topic, that's for sure. And it's something that, we'll all have to kind of deal with at some stage. And somehow in your mind, you're thinking, well, it's going to go away, and it somehow doesn't. And that's what I've realized. But you find ways to deal with it. And you also find the right people to help you through it. So I think I've definitely experienced it both in industry and academia. I'd say it hasn't ended. But what I do know is that I've developed ways to better deal with it. Whether it's, when I was in industry, it might have been just the people around me who maybe felt like I wasn't capable of doing something. And this could be gender, or it could be just, you don't seem to have the energy, or you're small, or something like that. Whatever it is they're thinking, right? And having to kind of tell yourself that that doesn't define you. And then trying to look at your past successes and use that to kind of fuel you forward. So I think that what I try to do is every time I made something happen, if I succeeded in something, I take that and keep it with me. And whenever I get into a situation where someone doubts me, I go back to that and say, well, if you succeeded in this and you accomplished it, then you can translate that, and this is just another challenge, and that you have the capability of overcoming it once, and you can do it again. And each time that happens, it kind of builds you up, and you look at your past self. Of course, I also look outside. So I'm always looking at, mentors outside all the way. I mean, I could be a mentor, but I need my own mentors as well. So looking at everyone around me and how they have overcome situations of discrimination, or where you feel like you are told you can't accomplish something, looking at how people overcome it, and many other badass women overcome it, is what gets me through sometimes. So I think we all have to kind of derive that strength from the people around us. And I definitely think that when you're in an organization, and no matter where you are, there bound to be people who are on your side, who want to help you. And then there are going to be people who are going to doubt you, or give you that sense that they don't believe you can do something, and you should gravitate towards the people who are there to lift you up. And if you do that, then I think you can sort of get from them that strength to overcome it. And you know, and I know constantly having to prove yourself is exhausting, but you know, you'll find the strength to kind of do that.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing beginning, first response. So if Lyndsey, you want to continue that conversation.
Absolutely, thanks. And yeah, again, Professor Seetha, wonderful comments there. I agree with everything. So I have a multi-pronged approach of solutions and actions that we can do. Of course, I have experienced race-based and gender-based discrimination or biases throughout my education and sometimes in my professional life. I touched on intersectionality previously. For those of you that are unfamiliar, intersectionality is when people have multiple marginalized identities, they are more likely to experience biases or discrimination or multiple forms of marginalization. So someone is aggressive towards me, is it because I'm Black or is it because I'm a woman? And sometimes those things can tease out, and sometimes your different identities can help you or harm you in different situations depending on where you are. So with that in mind, I would like to say the first way that you can cope with these things is to find community. Community isn't always where you think it's going to be, but you can still find community in your peers and people that are younger than you, people that are older than you, really people that are kind towards you, that resonate with you, that are helpful to you. One example of finding community in places that maybe you wouldn't expect: when I was in graduate school, I got a lot of support from the custodial staff and the staff that were fixing our meals in the dining hall. These were wonderful people that were kind and would see, hey, how was your day? How are you doing? And I could have good conversations with them, or sometimes have a bad day, be like, I need a hug, and they're there for you. So you can find community sometimes in places that you weren't anticipating. This takes me to my second point. If you can't find community, make community. You can start student groups. You can rely on your undergraduate networks and friends, aunts and uncles, this extended network. People don't need to be in your graduate program to offer you support. And also, I would say study this history of biases. There are tons of professors, academics, researchers around that their life and career and passion is to explain, you know, white supremacy, racism, gender aggression, and all these things. And as you study it and learn upon it, first of all, you're great at identifying it when it happens. It's more difficult for you to be gaslit because you know it when you see it, because boy, have you done the reading about it. And also, I feel like you're more equipped to address it. So that's been helpful for me. I would also recommend that you should help the people that are behind you in any way. Behind meaning people that are younger than you. So if you can do K-12 outreach, help undergrads, tutor a peer, mentor anyone, all of those are ways that you find community, but you also make it better for someone else that's probably going to have a marginalized identity, that's going to have a difficult path ahead. And I think those are really valuable relationships and just a good thing to do. Be an active bystander. If you happen to have a privileged identity and you see something going on, say something, interfere. It doesn't have to be aggressive or direct, but you can lend an olive branch and a helping hand to someone who's being treated or mistreated. And to that end, that's also use your privilege. So I think that kind of tacks on to that. But I also want to leave that with, you know, all the identities that we carry and all the things that we deal with, protect your mental health and protect yourself, and know that mental health, good mental health, and rest is a form of resistance. Thanks.
I love that, Dr. Lyndsey. I especially like what you said about community, that you might find it in places where you wouldn't expect. So sometimes as minorities, the only people that we see that look like us, you know, are the custodial staff. So that's how we find community. So I thought that was really nice. And I want to jump into the imposter syndrome portion of it. I think I experienced that a lot more, surprisingly, when I went into industry. And I think it was mentioned in the past also that like just having to prove yourself is very exhausting, right? And I don't think like sometimes it's not even obvious, but it's like a feeling that you just constantly have to be proving like what you've done, your titles, and it's very exhausting. And there's a couple of things that I did to overcome that, or to at least be at a better place with that. The first one was to find a community, for sure. Engineering Gals is a great community to start with, and just like a plug there. But the second thing would be to find voices that support your hypotheses. So for example, if you're giving some idea, if you're proposing something, find voices of experienced people that you can ally with, and you can find as either mentors or sponsors, and have them give you their own opinion one-on-one, and then you can bring that to the table when you're making a proposition as to like, here are the different voices I collected. It's not just me, right? So you can, if you have anything against the argument, like it's not just me. So that's the second thing. The third thing would be speak data. I mean, that speaks for itself. We're all really, we've all done research. If you speak in terms of like, I'll give an example. Like I do a lot of change management. I always do percentages, and they say like your work is going to change from 50% this to 25% this. Yes or no? Like I think sometimes it's just like that's the way people understand things, unfortunately. And the other thing that I've done is affirmations, and so this goes into like EFT tapping, and it just goes a lot into like self-care. And so just I think what really helped me with affirmations was becoming a lot self-aware of like, where was my anxiety coming from in this imposter syndrome, and I would say things like, hey, I know you're nervous about this, but at the end of the day, it's okay if you make mistakes. Like you are a young professional, it's okay if you're a human, and so those things really helped me out a lot. And so I think all of these things together just help you be your authentic self, and like just shine your own light, and stop having to go against things and trying to prove yourself, and just like let it be and be yourself. Because at the end of the day, I think we all strive to be like that, just like be our authentic selves, because that gives us a lot of peace, and like it can help us really get into our purpose. So yeah, that I spoke a lot and then went back, but yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like to the affirmations, what I'd love to add is I think I just had a hard time like believing in myself when it came to the imposter syndrome, if like my input didn't equal the output, as it sometimes happens with engineering exams, or sometimes relationships with professors who don't look like you, or don't recognize your intersectional identity, or you being a multidimensional human being in STEM. And what I had to do was I kind of had to factually write down the things that I was really proud of. It's on a bulletin board, like in a notepad that I can see right now. And I have my affirmations right next to it. So what I look at every morning is just like quotes I like, how I want to expand and grow. And then it has very factually everything that I know to be true. Again, like proof of the fact that I can do this because of the things I've done before, and then my affirmations next to it. And I love how you mentioned EFT, Gina, because I think that is really helpful. I'm like only getting into it right now. And another app that I've learned about that is like common recommendation in like EFT or like therapy circles is the Think Up app, which does come at a cost, but essentially what you are doing is recording your own voice, and you can listen to it before going to bed. You can add like an audio to it, and what it does is it just makes you think that the affirmation or the goal that you have is safe, because I think that alongside imposter syndrome, there's like an aspect of like safety or security where you kind of feel like you're a little bit out of depth, and it makes you feel unsafe. And so I think the Think Up app really helps in cultivating that sense of safety. And I guess the last thing that I've been looking into doing is something I learned at a women's leadership conference at Georgia Tech, which someone recommended. They were on a couple of different boards, and every time they accomplished something that they were really proud of, that was a reach goal for them, they would get like an engraved bracelet. Now, as a college graduate student right now. I don't think I'm going to be doing any engravings, but Bobble Bar or the Little Words project has ones on the lower end that donates to proper charitable causes, and that's something that I would, I guess, like recommend. You can add in any word you want onto it or have a word signify something that you've accomplished, but like a physical reminder I think is really helpful in really challenging moments.
Yes, I love all this response. I have never really thought about that before, and this really from external and to internal, like Rikhi said, this is really a bunch of work to really overcome this imposter syndrome. And I would say I want to add on a little bit on Rikhi's affirmation, things like that. So honestly, before pandemic, I think I'm a person who worries a lot, and I think that worries kind of penetrate to my career or my personal life in terms of the goals, because I always worry about what if I don't get that? What if something happened that would compromise my any other aspect of my life? So until before pandemic hit and really get me into the thinking, I really think this kind of positive thinking and reframing and this affirmation kind of like a thing, a word outside of me. And then until I touch that and realize the power of it. So I will really recommend people, if you have some doubt about that, really try it on. For example, so now I'm trying to break into the world of science communication, from transition from an academic position into at a very academic and a very niche spectroscope thing, like in the chemistry, and break into the publishing world. So I'm trying to apply an internship in science communication, science writing. So I've been down for a while, for the past few weeks. So I got some results back, and then hear them about maybe we can get an interview. And then I recognize that there's an old me, the past me would say, there's a little voice and noise to say, hey, what if you don't get that? That means you are a failure. You probably are not cut out of this. So you'll probably have to stop and think about another way. And then I think I just have been practicing this affirmation and this internal work, inner work, so I can recognize and then say like, hey, Chong Wei, you're fine. This worry you have, that's totally legit. So you can stay here while the other me can really move on. And then, yes, I can take care of that, but I can still move on with my future goals. So I will instead, I will reframe everything. Instead of saying, what if I don't get that? What if people just don't appreciate my work? I will reframe it. Hey, so now I got some initial response. What does it mean to me? And then I got the answer. So I journaling, and then I writing down. It means I get the attention from people. That means I have something to start with. That's a good sign. That means my past few years of work still are getting something positive, and that's helped me move forward. So I think that's my experiences, and I really appreciate everyone says all the wonderful techniques and methods to overcome this imposter syndrome, particularly for women. I think that's a lot of people will experience that and appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's definitely about that open mindset that you have to have. And it's weird for me. So I feel like in high school, a lot of me and my friends were like, you make it to 18 and you're an adult, and you're like, you know everything, right? You know everything about life, you know everything about like your mental state, everything about like if you have any like underlying like health conditions, you think you already know that stuff. And then I don't know what happens. You hit 20 or something, and suddenly they're like, oh, I need to deal with A, B, C, D, E of these different things, because you're going through your life making it to that 18, and then you're a young adult. And so that's where all of these, I guess, not coping mechanism, but these learning mechanisms about yourself and how to better yourself and where you fit in the world come in. So thank you for all of those techniques. I have anxiety, so I definitely will be applying some of them. I'm really interested to look into them. But I kind of want to go into this quick advice portion. I mean, you've given so much great advice on choosing grad schools, imposter syndrome, the biases you've had to deal with. But there's one very direct question that I'll ask. How many graduate schools do you think you should apply to? And I kind of want to just like go around super quick, and then everybody like throw out a number, because I kind of want to like see, like compare them and just like see what they say. So if somebody wants to like go first, and we'll just go around, just one word, nothing else.
10.
I applied 10. Yeah.
I applied to 1. and I mean, that was just because it was hard for me to try to get my kids and do the PhD, and so I kind of was deciding to just apply to 1 and see if it would work, right? If I had to get that push. But I think it's a good idea to apply to about 3 or 4, especially if you know specifically who you want to work with and things like that.
Yeah, I would say like at minimum 3, just to give yourself some wiggle room. And if you're feeling really spicy, go for 10 to 12. And yeah, make your list and dream your dreams.
Yeah, so I also applied to 1, but I would say like 3.
I will be applying to like 15 because I can't make up my mind. Like I'll be like, I want to go here, here, here. So another question, more in the advice discussion. In terms of tools for success for grad school specifically, what has been helpful? So I know we talked about a little bit of the mindfulness stuff, but maybe academic-wise, or if there's a website that has grad schools with different types of research, or some websites or something like that. And what is one thing that you know now that could have helped you when you were applying?
Okay, I could start. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so something I recently found that is kind of interesting that I didn't know before that I would love to share is go to a professor and look at their like students and their dissertation and look at how the student talks about the professor and their journey in that dissertation. A lot of folks that are in my lab just have like paragraphs on paragraphs about my professor, and my lab is a very large predominantly aviation lab where folks stay on for 35 plus years, which is very different from other smaller labs on campus where people hop around, even like within that kind of maybe space side of things. So that's something new I've learned that I didn't know before, that I just thought was fun and quirky.
Yeah, and I could add that with graduate school, and if you're looking for funding, it's important to kind of understand the structure of how funding works, and that it comes if you're looking for a GRA position, that the funding really comes from your PI. So a lot of times people just students tend to think, and at least when I was a grad student, I didn't think about where the money was coming from. And it ends up that it's not, if it's a GRA position, it's really coming from your PI's effort to get a grant. And so your PI is leading it. It is not money that came from the university directly, but it came through the university from your PI's ideas. And once you know this, you realize that you are more like an ally with your PI, as opposed to like the power dynamics is not you being a worker for them. It's more like you are part of the equation of a team that's bringing success to the whole idea that they conceived. And if you think of it that way, that you want to be part of this team and help to make it succeed, then I think it helps a lot, because a lot of times it's hard to understand how it works if you're walking in there thinking, as I did when I was a student, that I'm in here to get my research done and get my PhD. And it's me, I'm thinking about me and not about the whole team, as, this is our lab and we need to succeed, right? And I think if I had that mindset to understand how the funding mechanism works and how that money that came in to pay my stipends or pay my tuition was money that came from an idea conceived by a PI who wrote the proposal maybe 4 times or 5 times before it got funded, and that I was part of the equation of making it successful as a team with my PI. I think if I understood that better, I would have done a lot better.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Is there anything anyone wants to say, like any last comments, last things. If you want to give out your email or your social media, whatever you feel comfortable with, we'll also put it in the bio of this video for people to find. So any last remarks from anybody?
Last remarks, you guys are all awesome. You just don't know it yet. And you're going to be doing great and making sure that you take that awesomeness and pass it on. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to you, Nicole, for being a great a person, you know. And yeah, like I would say, just for everyone listening, you have the power to create your own path, right? Like I think we all have such unique paths, and like I'm in corporate, right? But you can choose academia, you can choose, you know, whatever you want. You know, the world is your oyster. So thank you to everyone. You guys have amazing input. I'm looking forward to connecting with you all as well.
Yeah, I would like to thank Engineering Gals, and thank you, Nicole, for being an awesome moderator. Thanks to the panelists. You guys have been fun to serve with. It's great to meet all of you wonderful ladies. My advice is to always, you know, go out, have fun, learn something new, rest, take care of your body. You only have one body, so you got to take care of it along for the ride. It's more important than you think. And please, you know, connect with us on social media. We can continue this conversation with you guys. I know I'd love to connect, and I know all my co-panelists would too.
Yeah, I think just on the topic of graduate school, I've had a week of articulating some like challenging things happening in my life to my teammates and my advisor and our academic assistants and my research engineer, really just the whole lot. And I think what's interesting is just learning how to speak up. And sometimes we might encounter different kinds of experiences. I'm trying to speak in euphemisms, but like experiences that are particular to being minorities in the space that might come off as harassment. And you need to speak up, and you need to kind of like ask for time off if something happens, and then also explain things like, well, hey, like I know I'm like a triple minority in this space, but I'm just trying to be a good researcher as well. And I don't need a vacation. I need a day to actually take a wellness day because we don't have spring break. And so I think because I'm like going through that right now, to anyone listening, if you're in grad school or going into grad school, speak up and use your resources and tell your teammates if you know something is happening. Because I was so scared to speak up, but it's been so good, and I felt so supported. And I just think that like there will be one person that supports you, and that person's enough, or you can become the person that you know, you support yourself. But yeah, just speak up.
I love what Rikhi has said, like speak up. I think that's also one of the things I have learned. Particularly, I'm from an immigrant state, and my English is not my native language. So I have been like overcome a lot of stuff, things like that. Now, see, I'm nervous, and now I'm gibberish. So if people are watching and like, hey, there's an Asian woman up there and speaking and talking to the public audience, I would just want to say things can happen when you work outside of your comfort zone. It feels very, very scary. But when you have this dream to like shining and be out there to help people, or also it help yourself to understand yourself more better, then take that change, take whatever opportunity that's arise for you. Just take on the position, the leadership, whatever, and things can happen. You don't know what's possible on the other side. And thank you for all the panelists. You are so awesome. And thank you for Nicole. You are really a great moderator.
Yeah, I'm gonna cry a little because you guys are all just so like, I get so emotional all the time, but you guys are all literally so inspiring. And even just to see you all like on my screen together, like so many little girls are gonna look up at you guys, like saying all these words and like speaking your truth. So I think this is really important to do, really important for our community. So I really just like appreciate your time so much. I know you are all, like we've stated multiple times, badass women that have a lot of things going on also, whether that be kids or familial or what's going on in the world right now, thank you. Thank you for taking some time to put a pause in your life to share with others. That's really important to us. So thank you for everyone watching. Also, this is going to be recorded. You guys feel free to send this link to anyone. It'll be here forever now. So your words will forever be ingrained. I've had such a wonderful time. So inspired. I'm going to just like do the homework for the rest of the week now. Like I have one of those like boosts of energy. I'm like, okay, I need to use it. Listening to all of you guys. So please make sure to follow Engineering Gals on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere, and follow all of these amazing ladies. All of their bios and their information to find them will be down below in the comment like box section. So thank you guys. We're gonna end the live here. So thank you so much.